Imagine coming home to a letter from your HOA demanding you remove every single decoration from your yard, then turning their own rules against them in the most outrageous way possible. I'm talking thousands of balloons, a petty revenge plot, and a neighborhood showdown that'll leave you speechless. Stick around for a wild ride through HOA drama like you've never seen before. If you love juicy neighborhood feuds, petty revenge, and HOA chaos, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss a single story. Let's dive into this balloon-filled saga of defiance and drama. The quiet suburban neighborhood of Willow Creek was the kind of place where every lawn was manicured, every mailbox matched, and every neighbor knew the HOA's rulebook by heart. At the center of this orderly world lived Sarah Thompson, a single mother of two with a knack for gardening and a love for seasonal decorations. Her modest two-story home stood out, not for its size or grandeur, but for the vibrant displays she crafted each season: pumpkin carvings for Halloween, twinkling lights for Christmas, and cheerful flower beds in spring. Her yard was a canvas, and she painted it with care, earning smiles from neighbors and passers-by. But not everyone appreciated her creativity. The Willow Creek HOA, led by the iron-fisted Margaret Hensley, had a reputation for enforcing rules with unrelenting precision. Margaret, a retired accountant with a penchant for control, saw Sarah's decorations as a direct challenge to the neighborhood's uniformity. It started with a letter, slipped into Sarah's mailbox on a crisp October morning. The notice, typed in bold, unforgiving font, demanded the immediate removal of her Halloween decorations: plastic skeletons, cobwebs, and a glowing jack-o'-lantern, claiming they violated Section 3.2 of the HOA bylaws. No excessive or unsightly decorations permitted. Sarah read the letter, her heart sinking. She'd spent weeks crafting the display, ensuring it was tasteful and temporary, yet the HOA deemed it unacceptable. She considered complying, but something inside her stirred a flicker of defiance. She'd followed their rules for years, trimming her hedges to the exact height, painting her fence the approved shade of beige. This time she decided she wouldn't bend. Instead, she began researching the HOA's bylaws, poring over the dense document late into the night. To her surprise, she found a loophole. The rules specified no permanent decorations but said nothing about temporary, non-damaging displays. Balloons, she realized, were temporary, easy to remove, and not explicitly banned. An idea sparked. If the HOA wanted her decorations gone, she'd give them decorations they'd never forget. She spent the next day online, ordering thousands of biodegradable balloons in every color imaginable. Her plan was simple but bold: cover her yard in balloons enough to make a statement without breaking a single rule. By the following weekend, packages arrived, and Sarah enlisted her teenage kids, Emma and Lucas, to help inflate them. The trio worked under the cover of night, tying balloons to stakes, fences, and even her mailbox. By dawn, her front yard was a sea of bobbing colors, a vibrant protest against the HOA's demands. Neighbors gawked as they passed, some amused, others confused. Sarah stood on her porch sipping coffee, waiting for the inevitable fallout. Sure enough, Margaret appeared by noon, her face a mask of fury as she surveyed the balloon-covered lawn. She snapped photos, scribbled notes, and marched back to her car, undoubtedly drafting another violation notice. Sarah smiled to herself, knowing the balloons were within the rules. But she also knew this was just the beginning. Margaret wouldn't let this slide, and Sarah was ready to escalate. As the sun set, casting a rainbow glow across her yard, she began planning her next move, determined to outsmart the HOA at their own game. The neighborhood buzzed with whispers of her rebellion, and Sarah felt a thrill she hadn't known in years. This wasn't just about decorations anymore. It was about standing her ground. The balloon display became the talk of Willow Creek, dividing the neighborhood into two camps: those who admired Sarah's creativity and those who sided with Margaret's quest for order. Sarah's yard, now a kaleidoscope of reds, blues, and yellows, drew crowds of kids and curious onlookers, turning her quiet street into a spectacle. Local teens snapped selfies with the balloons, and a few neighbors even dropped by to congratulate her on pushing back against the HOA's overreach. But Margaret was undeterred. A second letter arrived, this time citing visual obstruction and community disruption, demanding the balloons be removed within 48 hours or face a $500 fine. Sarah read the notice with a mix of amusement and resolve. The bylaws, she confirmed, made no mention of visual obstruction for temporary displays, and the fine seemed like a bluff. She decided to double down. Using her savings, she ordered even more balloons, this time focusing on the HOA's office itself, a small, beige building at the edge of the neighborhood. The office was Margaret's domain, a place where she held court over complaints and rule violations. Sarah's plan was audacious. She'd decorate the HOA office with balloons, framing it as a community beautification project to skirt the rules. She spent hours researching local ordinances, confirming that public displays on community property were allowed if they were non-permanent and didn't damage structures. Balloons, once again, were her weapon of choice. She recruited a few sympathetic neighbors, including Tom, a retired mechanic with a mischievous streak, and Lisa, a young lawyer who'd clashed with Margaret before. Under the cover of darkness, they crept to the HOA office, armed with helium tanks and thousands of balloons. They tied them to the building's railings, windows, and even the sign out front, transforming the drab office into a floating carnival. By morning, the office was unrecognizable, a beacon of color that could be seen from blocks away. Sarah stood across the street, watching as Margaret arrived, her jaw dropping at the sight. The HOA president stormed inside, slamming the door, but not before neighbors gathered, chuckling and taking photos. Sarah knew this stunt would provoke a stronger reaction, and she was right. That afternoon, a tow truck arrived at her house, claiming her car was parked improperly, a clear retaliation, as her car was within the lines. Sarah documented everything, sensing the HOA was overstepping. She called Lisa, who suggested filing a formal complaint with the city, arguing the HOA was abusing its power. As Sarah prepared her paperwork, she noticed Margaret rallying her loyalists, a group of older residents who valued rules above all else. They began patrolling the neighborhood, eyeing Sarah's balloons with disdain. The tension was palpable, and Sarah realized this was no longer just about her yard. It was a battle for the soul of Willow Creek. She spent the evening strategizing, knowing the HOA's next move would be bigger. The balloons, though, remained untouched, bobbing defiantly in the breeze. Margaret's retaliation came swiftly. The HOA issued an emergency meeting, summoning all residents to the community center to address what they called a breach of neighborhood standards. Sarah attended, her heart pounding but her resolve unshaken. The room was packed, with Margaret at the podium, her voice dripping with authority as she condemned Sarah's disrespectful displays. She announced a new rule, passed in a closed session, banning all external decorations, temporary or not, effective immediately. Sarah's stomach churned. This was a direct attack on her loophole. She stood citing the bylaw's requirement for a public vote on rule changes, but Margaret dismissed her, claiming the board had emergency powers. The crowd murmured, some nodding in agreement, others shifting uncomfortably. Sarah knew she was losing allies. Back home, she found a new notice taped to her door, a $1,000 fine for non-compliance and a threat to lien her property if the balloons weren't removed by morning. The stakes were higher now, but Sarah refused to back down. She consulted Lisa, who confirmed the new rule was unenforceable without a proper vote. Together, they crafted a plan to turn the HOA's tactics against them. Sarah organized a petition, gathering signatures from neighbors who supported her right to decorate. She also escalated her protest, ordering giant, custom-printed balloons with messages like freedom to decorate and HOA overreach. These she placed strategically around her yard and the HOA office, ensuring they were visible to everyone. The neighborhood was now a battleground, with balloons symbolizing resistance. Social media amplified the drama, as local teens posted videos of the balloon-covered office, tagging them Balloon Rebellion. The story went viral, drawing attention from a nearby news outlet. A reporter contacted Sarah, eager to cover the feud. She agreed, sensing an opportunity to expose Margaret's tactics. The interview aired, painting Sarah as a scrappy underdog fighting an overzealous HOA. Support poured in, neighbors dropped off baked goods, and strangers sent encouraging messages. But Margaret wasn't finished. She hired a lawyer, threatening legal action against Sarah for defamation and property devaluation. Sarah, undaunted, leaned on Lisa's expertise, who found evidence of Margaret's closed-session rule change violating state law. The tide was turning, but Sarah knew the final showdown was coming. She spent the night preparing, Her yard still a sea of balloons, each one a testament to her defiance. The HOA's next move would decide the outcome, and Sarah was ready to fight. The news coverage shifted the dynamics in Willow Creek. Neighbors who'd stayed neutral began questioning Margaret's leadership, and the petition to overturn the new decoration ban gained traction, amassing signatures from over half the neighborhood. Sarah's balloons, now a local landmark, drew crowds from beyond Willow Creek, turning her street into a tourist attraction. The HOA office, still draped in balloons, became a symbol of resistance, with balloon rebellion trending across social media. Margaret, humiliated by the publicity, doubled down, calling another meeting to enforce the fines and push for Sarah's eviction from the neighborhood. This time, Sarah arrived with Lisa and a stack of legal documents, ready to expose the HOA's overreach. The meeting was chaotic, with residents shouting over each other, some defending Sarah's creativity, others demanding order. Sarah presented her petition, backed by Lisa's legal analysis, which proved the HOA's new rule was invalid. The room erupted in applause from her supporters, while Margaret's allies sat in stunned silence. Faced with mounting pressure, Margaret reluctantly agreed to a public vote on the decoration ban, scheduled for the following week. Sarah knew this was her chance to end the feud. She spent days rallying neighbors, knocking on doors, and sharing her story. She also kept the balloons up, adding more with messages like "Vote for Freedom." The vote, held at the community center, was a spectacle, with residents packing the room and local media covering the event. When the results were announced, the ban was overturned by a landslide, with 78% voting against it. Cheers filled the room, and Sarah felt a wave of relief. Margaret, defeated, stepped down as HOA president the next day, citing personal reasons. A new board was elected, including Lisa, who promised fairer governance. Sarah's balloons remained for one final weekend, a victory lap before she removed them, leaving her yard as it was before the saga began. The neighborhood felt different now, less rigid, more alive. Sarah's defiance had sparked a change, proving one person could challenge an oppressive system and win. As she sat on her porch sipping coffee, she smiled at the thought of her next seasonal display, already planning something bold but tasteful. The fight was over, but her spirit of rebellion would live on in Willow Creek. If you enjoyed this wild HOA saga, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell for more juicy neighborhood drama. Drop a comment with your own HOA horror stories. We'd love to hear them. See you in the next one.